Hi guys, so today we're looking at rules of exponents part 2. So our objectives, we're going to divide monomials using the properties of exponents, and we're also going to simplify some expressions, but this time we're going to throw in some negative exponents and zero exponents as well. So remember, this is not 7.2 in our book, but we're just going to go with division properties of exponents. Okay, so we can use the principles for reducing fractions to find quotients. Okay, let's see if we can find a pattern. Okay, well, what does 2 to the 7th mean? Well, it means 2 times itself 7 times. Okay, and 2 to the 4th means 2 times itself 4 times. Okay, so reducing fractions, I can see, oh, those cancel, those cancel, those cancel, and those cancel, leaving me with 2 cubed. Okay, let's look at our next example. T to the 4th over t cubed. Well, t to the 4th is 4 of them, over t cubed is 3. Okay, anything we can cross out? Those cancel, leaving me with just t. So how did I go from 7 and 4 to 3, or from 4 to 3 to 1? Well, divide two exponents of the same base, you just subtract the exponents. Okay, so when we're dividing, we subtract. Okay, so example, c to the 11th over c to the 8th, 11 minus 8 gives me c cubed. R to the 5th over r squared, 5 minus 2 gives me r cubed. Okay, so let's try a problem together. Okay, so I'll break it down one variable at a time. G cubed over g, remember this is g to the 1st, so we subtract. 3 minus 1 gives me g squared. Do the same thing with the h's. 5 minus 2 gives me h cubed. Okay, so that's my answer. Okay, pause the video, try the first problem, please. Okay, so you should be subtracting. 3 minus 2 is 1, 4 minus 1 is 3, so x, y cubed. Okay, pause the video, try letter B. Okay, again, subtracting, so 7 minus 2, 7 minus 5, 10 minus 3, and 1 minus 1 gives you k squared m to the 7th. Okay, remember, if I have the same number, they just cancel. That's why there's no p's in the answer to that one. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, 3/4 cubed. Let's see what happens when I have a quotient inside parentheses to a power. Well, 3/4 cubed means 3/4 times 3/4 is 3/4. Okay, and I can simplify this as 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 cubed, and then 4 times 4 times 4 is 4 cubed, which is just 27 over 64. Okay, c over d squared. Well, that's just c over d times c over d. Okay, c times c is c squared. D times d is d squared. Okay, so what's the rule here? Well, when I have a power of a quotient, so a quotient inside parentheses, basically we're just going to distribute the exponent to everything. Okay, everything in the numerator and everything in the denominator. Okay, it goes everywhere. Okay, so let's look at an example. 3p cubed over 7, well, the squared goes to everything, top and bottom. So it turns into 3 squared. P to the, remember, power, we multiply, so 3 times 2 is 6 over 7 squared. Okay, we can simplify a little bit more. 3 squared is the same thing as 9. 7 squared is 49. So 9p to the 6 over 49. Okay, we're just going to do a couple of these. So go ahead and pause the video, try 2a. Okay, answer, 27x to the 12th over 64. Okay, 3 cubed is how we get the 27. X to the 4th cubed, power to power, we multiply. 4 cubed, 64. Okay, pause the video and try letter, or 2b. Again, I'm distributing that power to everything. 5 squared, 25. X to the 5th squared, power to power, and multiply. Y, remember that's a 1, so it's 1 times 2 is 2. 6 squared is 36. Okay, want to check, there's your answers to those two problems as well. Right, so let's talk about this. Okay, so 3 to the 5th over 3 to the 5th. Well, let's just see what it comes out to be. So 3 to the 5th is 3 times itself 5 times. Okay, 3 to the 5th, same thing. Okay, so if you think about it, something over itself, like if you have 2 over 2, that reduces to 1. X over x reduces to 1. So 3 to the 5th over itself has to be 1. Okay, so these all cancel. It's still just going to equal 1. Okay, so 3 to the 5th over 3 to the 5th, if we use our subtraction rule, it's just 3 to the 0. Well, up here, we notice it equals 1. So anything to the 0 power has to equal 1. Okay, always equals 1. Okay, anything to the 0 power is 1. Okay, so keep that in mind. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So let's look at some examples. Okay, letter A. What is raised to the 0 power? Well, that entire thing is raised to the 0 power, so that just equals 1. Okay, notice how the whole set of parentheses is to the 0? That's why it's just a 1. Okay, if we look at letter B, though, it's a little different. Okay, x to the 5th, y to the 0, x cubed. Well, only the y is raised to the 0 power, so we still have to deal with the x's. So x to the 5th over x cubed gives me x squared, and y to the 0 is just 1. So you can just write this as x squared. Okay, your turn. Pause the video and try each of these problems, please. Okay, 3a, notice only d is raised to the 0 power, so I got to deal with the b's and the c's separately. So b to the 4th over b squared is b squared. C squared over c is just c, so b squared c. Pause the video, try 3b. Okay, 3b, notice everything is raised to the 0 power, and therefore this is just 1. Right, so that leads us on to a new example. Okay, the new example, what happens when we have a negative exponent? Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so let's just work through what c squared over c to the 5th is. Okay, c squared is c times c. C to the 5th is c times itself 5 times. Okay, let's see what cancels. So I get 1 over c cubed. Okay, if we use our subtraction rule, 2 minus 5 gives me c to the negative 3. Well, I know that has to equal 1 over c cubed. Okay, so when we have a negative exponent, we move it across the fraction bar and it becomes positive. Okay, another way I work with this, we normally think, okay, top minus bottom. Well, I'm going to where the exponent's bigger. Okay, it's bigger on the bottom, so I'm going to go 5 minus 2. And since 5 minus 2 is 3, since I started on the bottom, I keep the c cubed on the bottom. Okay, so that's a way I deal with them too. So our rule for negative exponents. Okay, any non-zero exponent, okay, so negative exponent is what we call the reciprocal. Okay, so the way I look at this, negative exponents are reciprocals. When we move the negative exponent across the fraction bar, it will become positive. Okay, we can either move it from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top. Okay, so an example, 2 to the negative 4, well, we move it across the fraction bar, drop it down to the bottom, it becomes 2 to the positive 4th. Okay, another example, j to the negative 4, which 1 over j to the negative 4th, move it up, and it becomes positive j to the 4th. Okay, those are the trickier ones. Okay, once we know our negative exponents, that leads us to simplifying. Okay, so remember we had each variable appears once, no power to powers, and we simplified all fractions. Now we're just going to add one more rule. We can only have positive exponents. Okay, only have positive exponents. So let's check out some problems. Okay, letter A, n to the negative 5, p to the 4th, all over r to the negative 2. Okay, well, I know I'm going to have a fraction bar. So start the n's. N to the negative 5. I don't like negative exponents, so I drop him across the fraction bar, and the exponent becomes positive. Okay, p to the 4th, well, there's no other p's, and he's positive, so he stays the same. Okay, go to the bottom, r to the negative 2. Again, I don't like negative exponents, so I'm going to bring him across the fraction bar, so bring him up, and his exponent becomes positive. So my answer here is p to the 4th, r squared, all over n to the 5th. Okay, let's look at another one. Okay, letter B. I'm going to start with the coefficients. 5 over negative 20. Well, I know 5 over 20 is the same thing as 1/4. So that's just negative 1/4. And it doesn't matter where you put the negative. Conventionally, we put the negative in the top. Okay, now let's investigate our r's. I have r to the negative 3 and r squared. Well, as negative 3 goes down, so I really have r squared, r cubed in the bottom, which gives me r to the 5th. Or if you think about the subtraction rule we were talking about earlier, 2 is bigger, so I'm going to do 2 minus negative 3. 2 minus negative 3 is a positive 5, so since I started in the bottom, I stay in the bottom. Okay, if I look at my t's, I have t to the 7th, t to the 4th. Well, the bigger one's in the bottom, so I'm going to do 7 minus 4 is 3, so t cubed is in the bottom since we started in the bottom. And then finally, u to the negative 5. I don't like negative exponents, so he's going to come to the top, and his exponent becomes positive. Okay, let's look at letter C. Again, I'm going to do a big fraction bar because I know I'm going to have a fraction. Start with my coefficients. 2 over 10. That reduces to 1/5. Okay, let's focus on our a's. A squared, a to the negative 3. I don't like negative 3, so he comes up, and I really have a squared, a cubed, which becomes a to the 5th. Okay, look at my b's. B cubed, b to the negative 1. That one comes up, so 3 plus 1 gives me b to the 4th. Okay, if I look at my c's, I have c to the negative 5. I don't like that. Comes to the bottom. C to the negative 4. We don't like that. C to the 4th comes to the top. Now I can do my subtraction rule. 5 minus 4 gives me 1. So I started on the bottom, so c to the 1st stays in the bottom. Okay, your turn. Try letter A. Okay, letter A, I'm going to keep moving on how I see fit. Okay, I only see v to the negative 3. There's no other v's, so I'm just going to drop him to the bottom. Okay, if I look at my w's, here's an exponent of 1 and an exponent of 1, so those just cancel. Okay, x squared, I don't see any other x's, so he stays on top. Y to the negative 6, oh, I don't like negative exponents, so we bring him up, and it becomes y to the positive 6. Okay, 4b, pause and try the problem. Okay, so 32 over 4, well, that just reduces to 8. Okay, look at my exponents. A to the negative 8, ugh, don't like that, so we take them to the bottom. Okay, a to the 3rd, a to the 8th gives me a to the 11th. Okay, if I look at my b's, I have b to the 5th, b cubed. B to the 5th is bigger, so I'm going to do 5 minus 3 is 2. And since I started on the bottom, I'm staying on the bottom. Okay, we look at our c's. Now, I don't like c to the negative 2, so he comes up. I don't like c to the negative 4, he goes down. Let's do our subtraction rule. 4 minus 2 is 2. Started on the bottom, so he stays on the bottom. Okay, 4c. Pause the video and try. Okay, start my coefficients. 5 over 25 reduces to 1/5. Okay, j to the negative 3. I don't see any other j's, but I don't like negative exponents, so he drops down. Start with my k's. K squared, oh, I don't like k to the negative 4, so he comes up. 4 plus 2 gives me 6. And finally my m's. I don't like m to the negative 2, bring him up. Don't like m to the negative 6, take that down. Now we can do subtraction. 6 minus 2 gives me 4. And since I started on the bottom, it stays on the bottom. That's a lesson. Okay, homework, ignore this. Okay, you can find it on Google Classroom. So you're going to do problems 19 through 41 odd and problem 44. Please come with questions. See you guys later.